It's been pretty nice out lately, but it sounds like we have a dreary week ahead. Good evening, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Jim Rake. Thanks for joining us. Let's send it over to Rosie for a check of the forecast.
Thanks very much, guys. We still do have a slight risk of severe weather development. That's going to be in our western counties, and it's going to exist until about midnight. And interestingly, midnight is about the time where we're starting to see some convection pop up, and that's the plan at this time. So right now, it just looks like light scattered shower activity, most likely concentrated on our northeastern side of the viewing area. Overnight temperatures really not too bad. It's actually going to be very interesting with this system the next few days. That temperatures will be so warm, but you can see every single icon here over the next 12 hours. If you're not looking at completely cloudy skies, we will have showers and thunderstorms in the area. Now, this severe weather index graphic that's going up at this moment, this is for Thursday. We're continuing to watch Thursday as kind of being the epic proportions of the system, really the high notes of what we're about to see in the next few days. So I'll give you more details as to what's happening with that system and everything you can expect in your next 8 days in total coming up in just a few minutes.
New buildings in downtown Columbia may have to play by a different set of rules if a proposal discussed today is passed by the City Council. The city invited the public to speak out on proposed amendments to Columbia's building code. KOMU-8's Michael Dowdna is here with the details.
The proposal would add a hurdle to what the city deems as tall buildings. Tall buildings are more than 120 feet in height or more than 10 stories. Those buildings would have to get approval from the City Council before building. The proposal comes after recent construction of major student housing complexes and recent high-rise building proposals. New construction less than 10 stories would not need prior approval from the City Council. The amendments are meant to help with Columbia's growth.
We've seen a recent trend in downtown Columbia with residential buildings on a larger scale. There's always been residential in downtown, but now we're getting some large complexes. There's been some concerns about parking, particularly spillover into neighborhoods.
The proposal would also require one parking space for each 1,000 feet of residential area. Planning and zoning could vote on these changes on April 24th.
Missouri is closer to cutting state income taxes, but concerns remain over education funding. Senators passed legislation today that could phase in tax cuts starting in 2017. Researchers project the cuts will eventually waive more than $620 million annually. The legislation would gradually cut the top individual income tax rate from 6% to 5.5%. Governor Nixon says the tax cut is a reckless experiment that could hurt education funding and threatens to veto it.
Avaz residents are not too keen on an alderman candidate. Residents have mixed feelings about Jerry Wilkerson because he's a registered sex offender with past convictions and even has charges for other crimes pending. Those charges include burglary, third-degree assault, and attempt to shoot at a vehicle. One resident who refused to go on camera said they did not want him in office because he was in prison for 2 years. Another resident said, quote, he's done the city a lot of good and cleaned up a lot of the broken down lots. He's got a lot of good ideas and maybe people are just afraid of the changes. In his own defense, Wilkerson says a lot of charges against him are not his fault and that people should reconsider their view of him.
People do have a turnabout in life, and I'm one of them. I don't know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm just motivated within my soul or spirit or whatever to do the best that I can do.
There is a statute that says a person with felony convictions does not qualify as a candidate for elected office, but that law does not apply to the Board of Aldermen level. Elections are next Tuesday.
Today, a Missouri Senate committee heard testimony from moms who say legalizing medical marijuana could be beneficial to their kids. The legislation would allow marijuana use by patients diagnosed with certain conditions. One mom says her son has multiple seizures each day and medical marijuana could help. Those opposed to legalizing marijuana say it hasn't passed clinical trials.
A proposed Missouri House bill might give taxpayers a credit if they lose their representative in Jefferson City for more than 6 months. House Bill 2066, also known as the Patrick Henry No Taxation Without Representation Act, would require the governor to hold a special election within 180 days of the vacancy. It would also give tax credits for all taxpayers in the affected district if the governor fails to act in time. Democrats and Republicans are split on the issue.
They're paying their taxes and they're getting no representation. You know, it's pretty simple. somebody here in Jeff City needs to be working on their behalf.
Sometimes bills are proposed not with the intent of actually passing the bill, but to dramatize a point, and that's what I think this bill is attempting to do.
Parts of Phelps County and most of Crawford County have had no representation for almost a year since Republican Jason Smith went to Congress. Governor Nixon did not return our calls for comment today.
Gun rights are coming to the forefront at the Capitol. The Missouri House endorsed legislation that would nullify federal gun control laws the state considers a violation. The House voted today to remove a section that could have sent police officers to jail for enforcing federal gun laws. It would also allow Missourians to sue officers for enforcing federal gun laws.
The state is considering expanding its popular Puppies for Parole program to include veterans. KOMU-8's Lexi Spivak joins us in the studio to tell us more about how the program may be growing.
Yeah, right now the program involves prison inmates training dogs for adoption. Today was the first hearing at the Capitol for an expansion that would put those trained dogs in homes of veterans suffering from PTSD. The dogs would act as service dogs for the vets. Humane societies are filled in Missouri with dogs waiting to be adopted. Missouri's Puppies for Parole program began in 2010.
And 100% of the dogs that have been trained by the inmates have been adopted. And we're almost to 2,300 dogs at this point.
The state is looking to add veterans into the mix by taking these trained dogs and making them service dogs for veterans with PTSD.
Because there's a lot of veterans that don't have family. You know, I'm blessed. I have a wife and 2 kids and close family in the area, but there's a lot of veterans that don't have that. So that dog is their family.
MacArthur and Delilah are best friends. He says he owes his life to her. 2 informational hearings were held today without much opposition. Conway told me the director of the Department of Corrections, George Lombardi, will meet with key players on April 18th to drum up support for the program.
Columbia's CARE program needs more business for its summer work program.
The program is sponsored by Columbia Parks and Rec and gives teens a chance to get real-world experience in their interest areas. KOMU-8's Marissa Balmas is live outside the CARE office to tell us more about the program and how it changed one participant's life.
Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I can remember filling out an application just like this one for my first job, and then panicking when I realized I had no work experience to put on it. The CARE program keeps what happened to me from happening to these teens, giving them the work experience before they go out looking for jobs on their own. Now, the program will accept 10 more teens this summer than the last, and Program Supervisor Ron Schmidt said he's actively working to get more businesses to sign up to accommodate all the trainees.
LaToya Jackson was a trainee in the program when she was 14.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to get some experience in working. So I signed up for it and was approved.
She went to work at Mod Vintage Clothing in Columbia. 9 years later, Jackson still works there. The program started more than 30 years ago, giving those skills and putting some money into teens' pockets.
We're still needed for that same reason. That's why we're still here 30 years later.
Kids work at different sites for an 8-week period over the summer, and Columbia Parks and Rec pays their wages. The program is expanding, and Schmidt is trying to get work for everyone.
And my goal is to get maybe 120, 125 work sites this summer.
The Columbia CARE program may be looking for business applicants, but when it comes to trainee applicants, they have plenty.
After last summer's program, nearly 1/3 of our trainees were offered employment out of the agency's, the business's budget, because after 8 weeks they said, gosh, you're doing a great job, we want to keep you around.
As for Jackson, she hopes to open her own daycare and give back to the program that helped her. Marissa Balmas.
Businesses have until April 17th to sign up. If interested, you can get a link to the program's website and contact information at KOMU.com.
A tsunami warning is in effect for most of Latin America's Pacific coast after an earthquake in Chile, and it could also threaten Hawaii.
Plus, severe weather isn't just taking a toll on mid-Missouri. That's coming up next.
We have the potential for some stronger weather throughout the course of the week. We're definitely not the only ones, though. Take a look at this video. Funnel cloud formed today over a small town in Minnesota. A few homes, 3 farms hurt, but nobody was injured. It's very rare to see tornadoes in March in Minnesota. It's just so cold up there. Some counties were even under tornado warnings and blizzard warnings at the exact same time. What a system. Let's talk about what's going to be affecting mid-Missouri in the next few days. It's going to be a couple of very interesting systems as well. I just wanted to take a moment here at the beginning of the forecast to talk about being in spring severe weather season. Now, I think a lot of people are pretty aware that this just sort of happens this time of year here in mid-Missouri, but Wednesday and Thursday specifically this week are looking like active weather days. So I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points. One, have a plan. I know that seems really general, but I think a lot of people have a plan for what happens at home. Find the most interior room of a home or go into a basement away from windows. However, severe weather isn't always going to hit you when you're already at your safe spot. So what do you do if you're outdoors, if you're in public, or if you're on the roadways? A lot of questions there. So I posted a link on Facebook and Twitter. You can go and check it out. Tells you what to do and where to be when severe weather strikes. And secondly, just let the kids know. I know that's an overgeneralization as well. A lot of kids are aware to follow the parents when severe weather starts to happen, but let them know as well if they happen to be at school when severe weather strikes that trained professionals and teachers are also the people they need to be following. For the rest of tonight, I think this seems a little bit surprising at this point because we've only seen light spotty shower activity throughout the course of the evening, but we do still have the potential for a little bit of hail development as we head closer to the midnight hour here in mid-Missouri, and that's specifically going to be in our western counties. Not looking all that impressive at this time, and that's also going to be a trend. We're kind of ramping up from here on out with intensity in these storm systems. So tomorrow, high winds and hail are going to be possible, and that slight risk area for severe weather development covers all of mid-Missouri. Now, as we move over to Thursday, it looks like this system spreads out, so maybe it's losing steam, but actually it's going to encompass a much larger area and have a stronger line of storms coming through with it. So Thursday, not only high winds, not only hail, but a few isolated tornadoes are going to be possible there as well. Not necessarily here in mid-Missouri, but it's something we're continuing to watch for. So let's talk about the rest of tonight. Just because everything is so light and spotty at this time, looks like moving forward, we're just going to see a little bit of development heading into the beginning of our Wednesday morning hours, but not really until about 4, 5, 6 a.m. does it look like hail is going to be starting to move into the Kansas City metro area. Hopefully that will be starting to fall apart a little bit as it heads closer to us, but our morning hours tomorrow are likely going to be our most active. Overnight temperatures tonight really not all that bad. Overnight lows as cool as the middle to upper 40s. As we head forward, you're going to see temperatures are looking really nice, but that's actually what we don't want to see. We want temperatures to be as far down as possible because heat will always add fuel to the fire when storms are developing. So showers and thunderstorms throughout the day tomorrow. And then heading on into Thursday, where you can see it looks like we're even going to get a little bit warmer. Looks like on Thursday we're going to start to see things calm down just a little bit in those morning hours. And guys, it looks like if we get that calmness, when we start to see the rain dissipate, few breaks in the clouds, that's going to add that daytime heating. And unfortunately, that'll shoot temperatures through the roof. It adds a lot of instability. So Thursday, still the big dog we're watching for before things cool down and calm down for the weekend.
Well, it got crazy last Thursday, so who knows?
It's looking like so far maybe a stronger severe weather season than just last year.
Okay. Rosie, thank you very much.
Sure.
Peru residents forced to evacuate their homes.
How Mother Nature turned villages to ash.
An 8.0 magnitude earthquake rocked Chile earlier this evening. The country is ordering evacuations.
Also, a volcano eruption put some residents in Peru in shelters. Christian Picos joins us in the studio for your look around the world.
NBC. A powerful earthquake struck the Pacific off Chile's northern region, leaving Chile, Peru, and Ecuador under a tsunami warning. That's according to the U.S. Geographical Survey. Authorities ordered an evacuation after the 8.2 magnitude quake hit around 6:45 this evening. There are no reports of injuries or damage. Waves about 6.5 feet high have already hit cities on the coast. The quake hit in an area that has been rocked by numerous quakes the past 2 weeks. The latest tremor shook buildings in parts of Bolivia and Peru. According to the National Weather Service, it's also evaluating tsunami threat to Hawaii. NBCnews.com posted a photo just moments ago of the people who evacuated along Argentina after the earthquake. And a volcano in Peru erupted this evening, leaving one village covered in smoke and ashes. Members of Peru's Institute of Geophysics continue to track the eruption's activity. Officials say the volcano's eruption reached 3,200 feet above its crater. Wind carried ash to nearby villages, and about 20 families 3 miles away evacuated. Those who evacuated awaited further instructions for their relocation. And more clashes broke out around the world, but this time in Greece. Protesters attempted to break through a roadblock and move towards the venue of an EU finance meeting, but riot police were on standby. Some protesters carried flagpoles and threw flares, rocks, and water bottles at police. Greek police banned all demonstrations near the venue, so they fired tear gas into the crowd. The Greek government has made drastic cuts, causing an increase in poverty and unemployment. And that's your look around the world tonight.
The Tiger football team was off last week for spring break.
More on their first practice back next in sports.
Okay, take a look at this rescue at high seas, and it was all caught on camera. What we have here, a tide, there it goes, swept an amateur sailor overboard in the middle of the Pacific Ocean during the Clipper Around the World yacht race. Fortunately, the sailor wore a life jacket and a dry suit to make his 90-minute wait a little more bearable. And then finally, a rescue team got him, took him up on their boat, and treated him for possible shock and hypothermia. Coming up on KOMU-8 News at 10, a new air ambulance in Moberly made its first flight rescue in March.
We'll tell you how future life flights could be soaring into some competition. Rosie?
Thanks, guys. One more look as to what we're seeing right now in your live Doppler 8 First Alert radar. Light, spotty shower activity, still in the form of just showers. Hasn't switched over to any rumbles of thunder or clashes of lightning yet. However, we are still in that slight risk for severe weather development on our western counties, especially after the midnight hour. So looking like as we're heading into tomorrow morning, it's going to be a bit on the active side. Over about the next 48 hours, guys, it's just going to be one of those keep the umbrella on hand, keep listening to the radio and to us here broadcasting on KOMU-8 because things are still changing with these systems as they get closer to mid-Mo.
And the warmer it gets both tomorrow and Thursday, the bigger the risk of the severe weather.
That's right, more instability. So we're trying to keep those temperatures down. I know it's hard after such a harsh winter, but hope for cold.
Have a great night.